Hey there, YouTubers, unboxing video time. This is going to be another Z690 motherboard, LGA 1700. And, you know, I actually thought to myself after I bought it, why am I buying this? We'll talk about that in the video. Alright, so this is actually Z690i, which means ITX, right? And move up just a little bit. So of course this is gigabytes, you know, higher end stuff. I always have a much nicer looking box for this stuff. And you can see on the front what it says there. This of course, you know, should support 13th gen in the future. I will do some different videos for it, give you the BIOS overview, BIOS update. We'll install a CPU in this. I haven't figured out which one I want to do yet. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let's some of this stuff I might not go over in the video. So in case I forget, the LAN is 2.5 gigs. And I think everything else we will be able to talk about. Wi-Fi 6, alright, I probably won't call that out exactly, but it is Wi-Fi 6. Alright, let's get it open. So of course, a motherboard this size is meant for an ITX case, right? Not to say you couldn't put it in a mid-tower or a mini. But ideally, you know, this would go in a smaller one. Now, will yours truly put it in a mini or a ITX? No. I'm thinking of putting it in one of my deep cool ones. Alright, so what else is in the box? You have, looks like possibly an RGB extender cable here. M.2 screw. This looks like an adapter for your CPU fan or a case fan header. Another M.2. I don't even know if this has another extender cable. Interesting. Another extender cable or adapter, sorry. One of these guys, little sticker to put on the outside of your case. I never use those. I'm wondering if this is going to have the G connector. Usually you get those with the higher end gigabytes. SATA cables, 2 of those. Don't really need those. You got a Molex to 4-pin. That's a 4-pin. Most likely won't use that. More adapters. So one thing you're getting with this motherboard are a crap load of adapters. Most likely won't use that. And then the antenna with the magnetic base. So, you know, these things are, if you lose these or don't get one, they're like $20-some on eBay, so good idea to hold on to it. So there is no driver disc, folks, with this one, which is good because it's kind of a waste of money sending it to me. Some people obviously will have a CD-ROM DVD player in their computer, but yours truly pretty much never does, unless it's a OEM like a Dell or a HP. So the manual is good for 2 different motherboards, the D5 version that we're going to look at here and DDR4. And I'm going to put all this stuff back in the case, and then we'll keep the manual out though. So I may do a macro view video of this. If I do, there'll be a link down below. And the reason for that is, if you guys know what macro is, we can get really close and see all the text that may be on here. Interesting This one has some kind of back plate. There's a bit of a gap there, so this stuff must get pretty hot. Alright, so we're probably going to have to adjust one more time. Folks, when you buy this, you do not realize this is a way different design. Oh my god. I don't know what to tell you guys, but we might have to pull out a Phillips. This looks like a heatsink, possibly for at least one M.2 here. So I'll do that towards the end of the video so we can figure out where the M.2s are. What do I see? So one of the things disappointing with the Z690i is this is only PCIe 3.0. Now, will that really make much of a difference? Probably not. Are that many of you probably considering putting an awesome RTX 3090 on this thing? Probably not. Maybe you're going to stick with some older technology. Maybe a GTX 1660. So yeah, regardless of, you know, whether you go with an older graphics card, this will obviously support the newer 3000. Just be stuck at PCIe 3.0 and not 4.0 or 5.0. So some of the Z690s I have are PCIe 5.0 capable, which makes them really good for the future. Interesting enough, this is DDR5 on here, so kind of odd to see that, you know, but 2 sticks, and you know, this should be good up to at least 6,000 megahertz at the moment. I have not gone on the website. One thing I recommend, if you do buy this, before you buy your RAM, go to the website and verify memory compatibility for this motherboard. That's kind of an important thing, just to make sure it'll run and or run at the overclock speed that you're expecting. Alright, so we mentioned briefly, you know, this should eventually support 13th gen, and so we can take a look at that. That, of course, is what that looks like. Now, when you put the CPU in here, it's going to come a point where you pretty much have to press down on it, and then you'll get that black cover to pop off. Not as easy as the LGA 1151 stuff, right? 10th, 11th gen, but pretty much the same. I honestly have a tendency, after that pops off, to check to make sure my CPU hasn't unseated itself. Now, what else do we have on this motherboard, folks? Not a whole lot going on in here. You see, you know, this is going to have the bare minimum for, you know, VRM, heatsink stuff. And as you can see, you've only got a 1x8, so I'm not going to be able to push this too hard on the overclock stuff. And I currently don't have any K chips. I've got 6 12th gen chips. I'm waiting for 13th. I'm gonna buy a few of them on when we switch over to that. I kind of don't skip generations, but if I buy an i7 10700K, I usually wait till like the i7, you know, 12700K, skip the i11. But if it was the i10 900, you know, I would skip the i9 11900 and get the i9 12900, something like that. So yeah, 1x8. You know, interesting enough, for if you were to put a lock CPU in here, you're really not going to notice much of a difference between, say, having the 1x8 and 2 1x8s, as I've discovered in other videos I've done, except for in current limit throttling. You know, there's some issues that pop up. Better to spread all that power over 2 1x8s, but performance-wise, you won't really see much of a difference in benchmark. So here are, you know, some of those adapters that they provided. So we've obviously got smaller pins here. So I lied. I will actually need these. There's no way I'll be able to install some of the other CPU coolers I have without that. Now, interesting if you were going to use a lock CPU cooler, that thing's in there pretty tight, folks. Dang. Now, there are certain types of CPU coolers that would be ideal for this. I don't believe that one probably is. But you may have to do some research. One of those ones that, you know, has the fan sitting up higher may be ideal for this. Maybe it'll be time for me to buy a different M.2 CPU cooler just to make it work. Over here, folks, 24-pin power. Of course, this is going to come from your PSU, and that supplies power to the motherboard. You're only getting 2 SATA connectors here, all right? They give you 2 SATA cables. That is all you're getting. And, you know, not that big a deal for yours truly, because I hate hard drives. USB 3.0. So if your case has 4 USB 3.0s, you're not going to be able to use all of them. But if your case has 2, you're good. And hopefully there is USB 2.0 on here somewhere. I'm starting to think there isn't, folks. We'll look at the manual. But ideally your case is going to have a Type-C Charlie and at most 2 USB 3.2 on it, alright? Now here's the Type-C Charlie, which is a good thing. And these should be your front panel connectors right here. Let's double check that though. So here's the manual, just as I suspected. Number 11, which if we oriented this in the same exact way, and then maybe focus on it. Number 11's here, that's this, and it's this front panel there. I'm going to leave this right here for a second because, you know, when they change up the connectors on you, it makes it a lot more difficult to figure out what's going on here. And specifically when we get in this area, we want to know exactly what this stuff is. Okay, so 18 is a reset switch, and it has a note next to it. See 18 on there. Note 1, the connector is on the front of the BDP plug. I have to remember what the hell that means. Next to it looks like a, actually, what is this guy? Number 3, external power. Note 1. Yeah. This is kind of goofy, the way they do these notes. You got one with a circle, and then you've got 2 places where it says note 1. Next door should be RGB, ARGB, and that is number 7, DLED. Then right next to that is number 5, system fan 1 and 2. So you'll have a splitter off of this, folks, so that you can run a system fan. Or you just have a Molex connector. Hopefully you have case fans that have Molex connectors and you can hook up to your power supply. Then this big guy here, 15, this is front USB. So you will have an adapter. If we pulled back out the box, there's got to be an adapter for this, otherwise it's not going to work. So only the CPU cooler fan is a normal 4-pin. Interesting enough. Alright, so we've covered pretty much what we can cover there. We'll look at what's on the I/O shield there in a moment. Let me get this thing open and see if we use a little electronics one. So I don't know if all 3 of these screws are supposed to come out. And of course I have the camera. I'm trying to give you guys the action. Okay, there's a really long screw there. funny, I go from assembling this stuff to weight equipment. This stuff you have to be a lot more gentle with. And voila. Wow, look at that heatsink, folks. That is one big ass heatsink. Of course, you'll take the tape off before you put your drive in. Now, interesting enough, I could have sworn this thing said that it had 2 M.2s, but does not look like it does, folks. This doesn't pop out. Now, potentially, could this thing come out? There's another screw here. Let me check the directions. All right, folks. So when we were looking earlier, what BTP plug was, it's this thing. Interesting enough. So it does appear that we could pull that out, and then there should be another M.2 under it, I would assume, which is just crazy. Now, I don't want to act like this is the most advanced motherboard I've seen, but complicated maybe? Could be a word for that. And of course, I don't have my magnetic screwdriver. So somehow that pops out of there, folks, but I don't know how actually to get it out. Oh, there we go. It's coming out. We don't want to break it. And so this is a bit of a fail. All right, I'm going to pause. Maybe I'll figure this out and I'll pass on how to do it. So folks, interesting enough, as I keep screwing around with this, I can't get this thing out of here. You can just barely see that, yes, there is indeed another spot to put an M.2 in here. Now, you also see tape there that you're supposed to remove. I may just have to watch somebody else's video, which I hate doing, but I don't see any way to get this out of here. Maybe this screw right here, but that looks like it's holding down the frame, so, and it goes right through. Yeah, there's no way that that reaches there. Now, potentially you could put this in. You might be able to put this in. Now this has to come out. You can see the screw there. Little M.2 screw there. So this is going to go in like this. But if you can't get that screw out, then you are not going to get this working. And so, unfortunately, yours truly can't get it out of there. And the directions are not really telling me how to get it out of here. They're telling me it exists. If you read through here, remove the heatsink, we did that. To use you have to remove the BTP plug from the motherboard first. Use a screwdriver to remove the screw. Okay, we did that. Lift plug upwards and remove it. Yeah. Remove protective film. See, so three types of or three protective films that you have to remove. Now the good thing is, folks, if this is potentially a, we can't get that out of there. I don't know if that's a defect, why I can't get it out of there, but good news is we at least have one that we can use, right? If we want to use the second one, that is a huge problem. And, you know, like it says, I can try lifting up, not coming out. I can come in, pop this out at an angle, and it's still not coming out of here. Now, I definitely don't have the problem that I'm not strong enough. But there are no other screws to get a hold of. And I hate the thought I might damage it. So one thing that is probably causing us to have problems here, we have to get this out of the way, I believe. Here is the HD audio connector. Now that this is out of the way, let's try this again. And there it goes. Alright. So these have these connectors, and it was blocked. Sorry I wasted y'all's time there. But getting that out of the way obviously took a little bit of time. I'm going to go ahead and take this off because I don't want to have to mess with this again later. We're going to go ahead and put an M.2 in here so you guys can see that done. And while I thought there was a screw on here, there is actually not a screw on that side, but this one, it's sitting there waiting for us. So I paused the video, I went in and tried to figure out how do I get, this is a SATA, this one may not work in this, but I was like, what is this cable? And then I ended up just pulling it out, like, oh, there's the HD audio. I was wondering where that was. And so now that we have located HD audio, I was like, I bet this will come out now, and lo and behold it did, right? So there you go. This is really kind of hokey having that out like that. I don't care for that, but otherwise I kind of like this, even though it was painful. You saw how painful it was for me. Alright, so now we just got to find the screw that we took out. I think it was this one. Put it back in. And so now we've got that. And eventually I'll put another drive in here. I'm gonna assume the SATA works, but I'd rather have the drive on the other spot. Now, film here, remove that. So one thing by putting these drives in, we are assuming later when I do the install that this is going to work. All right, that's a negative to do actually, because when you first set up one of these computers, you don't really want to have a drive in there. You want to have one stick of RAM that works, a CPU fan, something to power it up, whether it's a you know, I was going to say a flathead. This is a Philips, obviously, but or one of the little power switch gizmos that I have that you see on the channel all the time. Power supply, you need this connector and the CPU connector, and then boom, you know, keyboard, mouse, and HDMI or DisplayPort if you've got integrated graphics. If you don't have integrated graphics on the CPU, then you know you'll need this hooked up. But that is, you know, what I normally like to do. I don't really like to put the drives in, but the fact I already took this off and it's going to be a hassle to do later, I'd rather do it now. So we'll see how that goes when I do installation. Now this is, we need our M.2 screw from the box. When I do the installation video later, I probably will take this out. But who knows? Oops. This is where I wish I would have grabbed my magnetic screwdriver. Okay. So now, potentially we could get away with not putting this in and just putting the heatsink back on, but the reality is things can move around, folks. Alright. Now we just need to find our screws and remember which one's which. Should be this long one here, long one there, and a short one over here. I think. So we're not lined up. What a surprise. Okay, that's in. And you saw how that long one dropped in. Now we just need this long one to drop down. For some reason it does not want to. There we go. And that is, that's the drive. We located one missing part. Now folks, last thing we need to take a look at is this side. And what do we have? This is a different layout than what I'm used to. I mean, it's got the same stuff on it, but it's laid out differently. You got Wi-Fi 6 over here, Q flash, D+. So most likely you could use your BIOS USB and update this potentially without being in the BIOS. I'll have to look at the directions on this one, but I always go through the BIOS and do it. If you know, for some reason I had a problem, I might come back and you know, do a future BIOS update through this, but for the most part I do it through the BIOS. Type-C Charlie connector here, USB 3.2, these probably are Gen 2, Gen 1, two of those, two USB 2.0s, Ethernet, this is a 2.5 gig, and then we have DisplayPort and HDMI. Line out, mic, what is this one missing? Line out, mic, line in, doesn't have line in. So this is not probably a good one for recording with. Then we have this plastic on top here. I'm going to leave that on there. You guys should take this off. I will most likely resell this in almost new condition. Which reminds me, I need to collect my strips of this stuff and put them back in the box, right? But hey, that's going to do it for this unboxing and overview. Just remember, you know, hold on to all your connectors. You're going to need them for these the adapters. And that's going to do it. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.